The story of basketball has always been told through the rise of prodigies. Every generation produces a handful of names who arrive not as simple prospects, but as living prophecies, players whose very existence forces the world to look at the game differently. In the last decade alone, we've seen this cycle repeat itself with almost mythological regularity. Zion Williamson stormed into the NBA as an unstoppable force of nature, a human highlight reel who defied physics every time he left the ground. Victor Wembanyama was hailed as the most unique talent the sport had ever seen, a 7'4" skyscraper who could dribble like a guard and shoot like a wing. And before them, Luka Doncic shattered expectations, showing us that brilliance can come not only in athleticism, but in an advanced basketball mind-wise beyond its years. These were the names whispered with reverence, the players who defined an era before they had even stepped onto an NBA floor. But as unbelievable as it may sound, there is a new name now joining that pantheon. A boy so young, so impossibly advanced, that scouts are whispering he may surpass them all. His name is Mohamed Daboni, and if you're not already familiar with him, you will be. To put his story into perspective, let's first acknowledge just how surreal it really is. Daboni was born in 2011. That's right, not drafted in 2011 like Kyrie Irving, but literally born that year. Today, at just 13 years old, he is already being talked about not as a promising youth, not as a potential star, but as the next generational cornerstone of the sport. And if he continues on his current trajectory, by the time the year 2030 arrives and he becomes draft eligible, he may enter the NBA with the highest expectations of any player in history. It sounds absurd at first, because how could anyone so young be judged against the likes of Wembanyama, Luka, or Zion? But then you see him on the floor. 6'10" at 13 years old with the wingspan of a giant and the mobility of a wing, Daboni doesn't just tower over his peers, he overwhelms them. His game is a frightening combination of raw power and refined skill, drawing comparisons to both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama, but with flashes of Zion's explosive dominance. That's the thing that sets him apart. He isn't simply tall, or simply athletic, or simply coordinated. He's all of it at once. A child in age, but already a man on the hardwood. The world first began to take notice when Daboni went viral at just 11 years old, playing for Barcelona's youth program during an under-15 tournament in Spain. His opponents were teenagers, 3, and sometimes 4 years older than him, yet he didn't just compete, he dominated. Against Real Madrid's junior squad, the very academy that once produced Luka Doncic, Daboni recorded 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 blocks, earning MVP honors, and leading his team to the championship. In that moment, it was no longer a question of whether he was gifted. It was about how far this could go. But dominance against kids wasn't enough to define his reputation. It was when he began holding his own against teenagers, and then thriving, in competitions usually reserved for elite 17 and 18-year-olds, that the conversation changed entirely. At 12, Daboni was invited to compete in the EuroLeague Next Generation tournament, a stage considered one of the highest levels of junior basketball in Europe. There, he went toe-to-toe with prospects years ahead of him and outshone them all. In just limited minutes, his numbers ballooned when adjusted for playing time. Per 36 minutes, his production projected to Wilt Chamberlain-like absurdity, over 60 points, nearly 20 rebounds, and multiple blocks. Even skeptics who dismissed highlight reels couldn't ignore the numbers. And the scary part? He wasn't even being unleashed fully. Barcelona's philosophy, scarred by the history of burning out prodigies too soon, has been cautious with him. They know the danger of overexposing talent at too young an age. The story of Ansu Fati in football, a prodigy ruined by early overuse, is still fresh in the club's memory. So Daboni's minutes have been carefully managed. Every appearance is a glimpse, not yet the full picture. And yet those glimpses alone have been enough to convince experts that we are witnessing something we have never quite seen before. Through the 2023-24 and 2024-25 seasons, Daboni's ascent became undeniable. He tore through the under-16 level so easily that Barcelona had no choice but to move him up to the under-19s, where he faced competition nearly twice his age. Again, he thrived. In the Spanish ACB Under-19 League, a system that regularly produces NBA talent, Deboni was not just surviving, he was producing efficiently against the reigning youth champions of the basketball world. He became a key contributor in Barcelona's playoff run, playing heavy minutes in the Final Four and helping deliver yet another championship against Real Madrid. His numbers told the story of steady progression, but the eye test told something deeper. The kid was adapting. Game by game, he was sharpening skills that most players don't develop until late in high school or even college. His shooting touch improved dramatically, his free throw consistency already projecting long-term as a weapon, and his ability to rebound against bigger, older competition revealed instincts that couldn't be taught. All of this culminates in the moment looming just ahead, the leap into the professional ranks. In Europe, unlike the NBA, there is no age restriction for turning pro. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And by all accounts, Mohamed Deboni is more than good enough. With his 14th birthday approaching, Barcelona is preparing for the inevitability that he will soon become the youngest player in history to debut in Spain's top league. The current record stands with Gonzalo Bagayoko, who played just before turning 15, and before him, Ricky Rubio, who entered the league at 14 years and 11 months. Deboni is poised to shatter that mark. If he steps onto the floor for Barcelona's senior team in the upcoming season, he will do so a full year younger than Luka Doncic or Victor Wembanyama when they made their professional debuts. And this isn't just symbolic. He would be doing it not against other prospects, not against college-level competition, but against seasoned veterans, grown men who have represented their countries on the international stage, men who have spent years in the NBA and EuroLeague. Barcelona's roster is stacked with recognizable names: Jabari Parker, John Vesely, Willy Hernangomez, Justin Anderson, Kevin Punter. These are not washed-up relics. They are world-class professionals, still in their primes, still capable of competing with NBA-level talent. For Deboni to share the court with them, to even hold his own in practice, is mind-boggling for someone who still isn't legally old enough to attend high school dances. So what kind of player will he become? That's the impossible question scouts are wrestling with. At 6'10", with the potential to grow taller, Deboni projects as a big man, but he has the fluidity of a wing. He is agile enough to defend guards on the perimeter, explosive enough to dominate the paint, and skilled enough to stretch the floor with jump shooting.